Good afternoon. Uh, good to see you all again. I think let's set the tone for this one again, right? We're not here to talk about interview tips, how to write your CV. I think this is something that we have been getting a lot of feedback from. We've had candidates who feel that they've got a fantastic interview. They've had a good experience, but what happened after that? Why have they gone quiet? And what is it that we need to look out for, right? So yeah, let's start. And I think we want to be on time this time. We've started exactly at about 4, and slowly we will let people come in, and it is what it is. Okay, I don't want to take much time on this, right? This is, you know who I am. To many of you, if you don't, I run a search firm called Direct Search Global, and we focus on maritime energy. But I think the interview, or it's a transferable process, which means whichever industry you are, I think the soft skills that they look out for, or what companies look out for, is what we are going to speak about today in detail. I've got many slides, so bear with me, right? And towards the end, we'll have some questions. You know, yeah, this is something that you have to understand. Yes, I tick all the boxes from the job description, right? And I think, wow, I should get the job, right? But you need to understand you're not competing against the job description. There's a lot of other factors in there, like perception, timing, and who you're up against as well, right? While the job description gets you interested, the hiring process compares you against alternatives, chemistry, team structure, which we will be talking about. And this is what some candidates, because they always think that they judge interviews in isolation, but hiring teams judge in comparison, not isolation. So what is today's conversation going to be, right? If you see, I want people to know, when we're walking through this, what's the reality, right? Right, how hiring decisions are actually made, and why doing well, does not always mean getting the job, right? I've had a pleasant experience. I think I did well, but probably they went for someone else, right? What do hiring companies look out for? You know, why rejections happen? You know, I answered all the questions, Ryan. I could answer everything, but why am I still rejected? What are the hidden factors? you know uh I think I've got to third round, but somehow someone internally who was quietly watching decide to throw their head in the ring, and somehow it has gone to the internal candidate. No, does that make me any worse? No. Right, you have to understand, it's never about you. It's who you're up against and what are the other factors. And so now, what do I do differently? Right, like in every conversation, we need to look at what's happening, why it's happening, and why we can do it differently. So this will be, I think this would really help, if you're going for an interview today, tomorrow, whatever, whenever it's coming up. The reason is because, right, it's good for you to better prepare yourself. And how can I, shine better, more towards getting the job versus to just doing a good interview. Okay, this is to many people, right? They read the job description, they try to memorize the job description to have all the answers. But you need to understand, again, it's an interview. It's where you are being assessed, and where you are also assessing them, right? So it's not that I'm going to do a good job in an interview, right? I'm going to make sure I'm also watching how they ask questions. Are they condescending? Are they open? Right? So you need to realize that, as it rightly said, an interview is a business decision wrapped inside a human conversation. Do I hire this person for the business? Do I hire this person because my team needs someone like that? Or is this person so good in an interview that it might mix the undo the balance in my team, right? Which is why we said risk, fit, evidence, timing, and comparison. You know, it's all about comparing, right? So you need to get your head around that, that I am not going to the next, if anyone's going for an interview tomorrow, please understand it's a platform or a situation where you are assessing them as much as they are assessing you. This is something that you can take some time to read, right? Please understand your CV has already did the job in getting you an interview. So they already know what you have done, what you can do with what you have written, but now they want to understand more, right? Maybe you should be prepared for a scenario based question, right? If you are in a position like sales, or you're going for a position in leadership, if faced a problem like that, what do you do? And be prepared for scenario, because scenario based questions actually give the interviewers who you really are and how you react under pressure. An interview is already pressurizing, right? You're sitting in front of 3 4 people. So what is not in the job description is what will be assessed. So as much as you think you can do the job and they think that you can do the job, it's good to have it assessed in an interview. So think about scenario based questions. Always think about what are they looking for. you know an attitude cannot be shown on a CV, right? So are you being able to display that? Are you able to show the person sitting in front of you, right, properly articulating what you can bring to the table? Yes, as I was saying, the CV gets you in, right? Some CVs today are written so fantastically well with the help of AI. Nothing wrong, right? But it's also good, if you have overhyped it, then you would get questions related to what you have told people. So until they see you, the CV is you. But once they see you, they'll start verifying at every point. Okay, you've done this, you've did that. You say you can do this, and that's what you need to be prepared for, right? You have done this, but now how well can you really do it? How much more have you done it? And be prepared for questions like that. You know, how do you think under pressure? Can people work with you? You know, are you good for the company, just not good for the job? So think about this. Let this sink in, right? If you are going for an interview, slowly understand every slide tells you something different, right? Yeah. So this is basically the kind of feedback that we get all the time. You know, what's performance versus selection, right? I think again, I've answered all the questions. I have maybe spoken more than the hiring manager. I really didn't give him a chance to speak because I was that good, you know. So maybe that's why I feel so positive. It went for an hour and a half, and I did 75% of the talking. So what happened, right? And why did I get the job, right? So this is what we need to come out of, because the reality is what you feel is not the ultimate decision, right? How you make the other person feel is the key to your success. And think about this. You go in with a lot of information in your head, right? But if they're not clearly structured and they don't come out as the way you want, you cannot expect the interviewer to put everything in and then take out, tick the right answers. So maybe someone had a clearer solution, right? Which is why I would always say it's good to be as quiet as you can in an interview if there is a pause, because it gives them time to think and you time to think as well, right? And this, I still cannot understand. And I still have people going for an interview who, before the interviewer finishes the question, they think it's a buzzer game. Oh, I got the answer. And even before they finish, right? So what are you, it's not wrong, because we don't always go for an interview. If someone in this chat group today has told me that I go for 40 interviews a week, something is clearly wrong. So it's not wrong. So I think what we're trying to establish here is, how do we what are we trying to tell in the interview? We are also demonstrating soft skills. Maybe let them finish. We always have this 2 second rule. When someone finishes, one, two, and then you answer. Why? Not because you don't know, but you give someone the perception that you're thinking, and you're a good listener. wow, if I work with this person, next time, every time I speak, I'm sure the person listens, right? But if you keep interrupting, and you don't do it because sometimes it's done out of innocence, you know what I mean? So think about that, give them and sometimes we I know of some candidates who go in and tell them, I know everything. I know exactly what you're looking for. I'm the kind of guy, I can do it, but this does not show that you are reliable. It just shows that you can do the job maybe better. You might be a bargain, you might be a steal for the company, but if he has four other person in the same department, he needs to manage his internal dynamics as well, right? So let me move on. Okay, oops, I need to go back to the picture. Oh, sorry. I think it's the clock. Yes. Yes. This is what I tell everyone, right? You this is not an interview, is not only down to a capability issue. So if you don't get the job, don't be too hard on yourself. you know you're just as good as your competition in that moment, right? So imagine running a race when you're 20 years old versus someone who's 50 years old or 60 years old. You might win the race, right? Because you are as good as your competition in that moment. So as much as you think my CV encompasses everything that they do, the hiring company might not want everything that you do. So please bear in mind, the worst happens to the best of us. So if you don't get shortlisted in an interview, it's really not you sometimes. It's who do they have. you know Maybe a candidate who is clearer, I don't like to use the word cheaper, but more cost effective, or more aligned to what they're looking for, or easier for the internal stakeholders to manage. And this is one line I would like you to keep with you, and a good takeaway. You're always only as good as your competition in an interview, because there will be other applicants, there will be other candidates. Okay. This this is something that it happens to many of us. And usually when we know the job, when we come from a competitor, maybe we know exactly what they're looking for, right? So what happens, this is now an influx of information, right? Surplus of information, and you have that all in your mind, and you can roughly tell what the person is going to ask, right? Have you worked with this kind of people? Yes, I've done it. I've done it, and I work with them, and I have coffee with them. I know, and then you start name dropping. I know this person. I know that person. And what happens? You then step out of the interview process, and it becomes a conversation, right? You still have to bring yourself back, put yourself in check. It's still an interview. It's an hour. That's it. An hour and a half, depending on how many questions they have. Right. Talking more does not mean interviewing better. And I've been told this as well. Some candidates come in and we really wanted the person, but somehow they didn't give us a chance to talk. And again, it's not a fault because we know everything or we think we know everything. We sometimes do it out of innocence, right? And never mince your words. If you need another couple of seconds, take a break, because fast answers do not always mean strong answers, right? And again, if it's 50% the company, it's 50% you are assessing them, you are seeing how they talk, you're seeing how they treat your responses, vice versa. So there's no point dominating the room. It does not mean that you are equal 50-50, and yeah, you ask me, I ask you. You still have to understand that it's an interview room, and they are there to assess you whether you'll be a good fit for them, and you whether this company will be a good fit for you, right? And like I said, if they're assessing chemistry, sometimes chemistry can make candidates too casual, you know and if I have an hour or two to assess you, it's that time that I look at how can I, not only whether you can do the job, but how can I work with you. Or maybe he's too casual, maybe he knows everything, maybe he's going to stop learning after a while. And this is a feedback that I get from hiring managers all the time, right? And without you realizing it, again, innocently, confidence can quietly become overpowering, right? And it can be seen in an interview across. You probably can't feel it, but you'll be felt by the other person. Right? I like this to be here for us to have a look, right? And common mistakes, interruption. You're not interrupting because you don't like what they're saying. You're interrupting because you can add value to the question. You can add value to what they're asking. You have an answer already, you know, and then you have an answer, you have a response, and just because they don't know, you add on to it, and you keep adding on to it. Maybe you're feeling that, or maybe they're not understanding me. Maybe they have not understood what I'm saying. Let's say a bit more. Let's back it up with more responses. Again, lengthy answers does not mean you have answered it right. If you know what you're doing, try to keep it as simple as possible, but not simpler, right? And don't, this is another, as much as interruptions is one, speaking over the interviewer, right? Again, let me reiterate this. A lot of people don't do it knowingly, they do it unknowingly, because the time, as much as it's the time to interview, it also adds added pressure that I've got, all I have is this time. If I don't make an impression, I might ruin it. So I'm gonna, yes, yes, please let me speak. Please write down notes. Please let me speak and speak as much as I can. It might increase my chances. Probably not. So yeah, this again, I had I had interviewees, candidates who come back and said, yes, we spoke about this and we spoke about that. And interestingly, we spoke about something else. And I'm like, wow. So they've had so much to speak in an hour, right? And then when I get a interview prep interview update from the client, he said, oh, there's a lot of off-topic answers. We were not rude in stopping the candidate, so we let the candidate speak. But I think, yeah, it's probably not the right person for us. So this is a very important slide, right? So yeah, yes. Again, right? All this are all interlinked, right? The performance mindset. I've got an hour, I've got 45 minutes. I'm going to make the most of it and say all I can and everything I know under the sun. Let them disseminate the information that I'm given, let them write it down and let it be something that, wow, maybe after I go, they'll just compare answers. It doesn't work like that, right? They have got a set of questions and they just want answers to that. There'll be a time for you to ask, and that's when you ask. Okay. And yeah, this you see the bottom line, you know, someone just tell me if they keep speaking as much as they can in an interview, Ryan, how do you think they'll behave in the team? Because my team generally don't speak a lot, so this is where the chemistry, the fit comes in. Yes. Yes. Listen to respond, but not listening to understand. So this is something that it's underrated, not spoken about enough, but many hiring managers are looking out for this because they want people who can listen and listen to understand. So because what happens when you listen to understand, you can add an example, you can add a scenario, you can respond not prematurely, not with one line, maybe you can add two or three more lines that can back you up in what you're saying. But when you listen to reply, you just get the gist of what they're asking, and your answer might be premature. Miscues. Yes. Yes. This is also something very, very important. So think about this. You know, what does listening do? Listening proves maturity, judgment, and collaboration. Think about that. It gives them the opportunity to assess you as someone who can work with others, right? So yeah, this is also something that you can read. You know, this is linked with performance. This is linked with being a lecturer. This can be linked with I know my stuff so well. I can speak for another 2 hours, but unfortunately, there's no time, so I speak for an hour. It has to be two-way. Please, we have to we have to remember this is an important slide because it tells a lot about what an interview is all about. Even if you are as a candidate, if you want to ask a question and people are always speaking ahead of you, right? It gets it. So think about airtime versus impact. This is an impactful line, right? And think about this. You don't need to say more than is required. You don't need to answer outside of the questions. If they have a set of questions, it has been prepared, and that's all they want to hear. If there's a pause, let it be. It's not an opportunity to create a conversation. Yes, correct. Sometimes the smartest person in the room loses to the person who listens best, right? We learn from listening. We don't learn from speaking. Okay. Again, uh, uh, it's we have to understand that hiring managers psychology is very important. Companies hire more than just capability. They hire confidence. Even if you don't know, you are sitting there positive, good attitude. I think he's got some of the skills, or she has some of the skills. Maybe we can train the person, right? Maybe we can train the person and tap on what they already have, the transferable skills. So confidence, comfort. When they feel confident about you, they feel comfortable, they feel that, wow, I think this person can not only learn from me, but it's a positive attitude. I feel that, the team will also like someone like that because the hiring manager knows the team better than anyone else, not even HR sometimes, right? Because it's the team that he works with every day, you know, and if they have confidence in you and they're comfortable with you, chances are they don't need any justification on why they hired you, right? And they do it. They put their neck on the line. So think about this. This is hiring manager psychology, right? And yeah. So if someone, I think this person can do the job. Maybe not now. Maybe in a month's time. And but the team can help with that because I like this person's confidence, and I feel comfortable working with the person. Think about that. You. Right. This is this is long term. This is what they think about, you know. And I've got I've got a guy, I've got a candidate who went for an interview and was asked, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? Or in 3 to 5 years, I see myself in your position. Nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. It's fantastic. It's ambitious. But hiring managers know that if they have a flat structure, right? They might not, they might think that you are too ambitious. You are not that type of person, but maybe you have heard it from someone that if you sound ambitious, hey, I'm going to tell that, and they're going to hire me because they find that I can grow. But you need to understand that what are your future plans? They are to remain with you. Please understand that if you want to be somewhere else, you want to do this, you want to do that, it only stays with you. No one needs to know, right? And while no one can predict the future, if somebody asks us for a future plan, we always say, I think I want to be good at what I do and continue to be good at what I do. If the company feels that I can do something else or it's time for me to lead, I'm more than willing to explore. But my mind now is just to be good at what I do, right? So this answers the will this person stay? Can this person handle the pressure? Right. So while you are talking, this is what they're all thinking about. Will they disrupt the team? Are they coachable? Right. For continuous improvement, besides learning on your own, staying coachable is very, very important. Right. Different companies give you a different set of learning abilities. Right. Different companies give you different challenges. So are you coachable? You know, and obviously, I've worked with people that are they stable? Are they do they have a lot of things going on? Yes, they can do the job, but can they be easily off track? You know, and wow, I'm looking at someone. I've got a team of 7. Will my team enjoy working with this person? So if you know the psychology of what the person opposite you is looking for, then you will now realize that it's just not a set of questions. the job description has. It's not just answering the what you can do matters. These are the questions behind the questions. you know can they represent the business well? you know are they someone who I'm comfortable meeting a client of mine? you know if they are talking to me in an interview and the way they present themselves gives me an idea of how they will speak to someone they don't know, right? Because the hiring manager is also someone you don't know. You're meeting them for the first time, right? So if you now can have this at the back of your mind, and this is what they're looking for, you can now uh, position your answers, come up in a way to answer these seven questions. Well, they're looking at longevity at any time. They're looking at someone who can handle the pressure. So am I going to, my answers have to tick some of these boxes, right? Yeah. So it's just why you against someone else, right? It's always this. And so what are they looking for? Yes. I think this is really, really important, right? So who do you think gets hired? Candidate A, candidate B, right? One is more experienced, technically strong, impressive, very confident, higher salary. But the second one is a better communicator, a better team fit, better listener, more emotionally aware, and aligned expectations. Chances are I've spoken to a lot of people who fit into candidate A, and they've come back thinking, what has gone wrong somewhere? And it's unfortunate sometimes, right? But it is what it is, right? And when they find someone who is a better fit in the team, many of you have heard this theory, right? Hire one, two leaves, and hire one so strong, and they come in. The people who have been with you for so long start to think, what does it what does it mean for me? So can I add someone who's on the same strength as my team? Yes, it's always good to have someone better, but this is something that hiring managers tell me, right? Which I maybe agree, disagree, but it's all not always the most experienced person is a candidate that gets the job. It's always they're always trying to find the importance of team fit, cultural alignment. Think about that. Put this at the back of your mind as well. How do I communicate better instead of just telling them, yes, I can do the job. Yes, I've done it. Yes, I can do this. Why aren't you still hiring me? Right. So it's about sometimes better communication. Right. So think about this. And this was told to me by someone who mentored me that fit is not a soft word. It's a business word. Fitting in is not choose the best among what I have and see who fits. No. Choose the one who fits and then choose who's the best one out of it. You see the difference, right? So so yeah, you need to, if you are going for an interview for a company that you like, you need to ensure that you can't ensure, but as much as you can show them how good a fit you can be, and can you work with the company space, can you collaborate without overpowering, how can you add value, or how do you work with the team, or it's my way or the highway. you know I know so much, I can help you as my leader, I can help you grow, but if the rest of the team doesn't catch up, I don't know. This is how I've worked. It's challenging, it's a competitive environment. As true it might be, it says a lot of whether they want to take this gamble on you, right? And I was speaking to someone earlier. It's not the shoe that fits on someone else that looks nice. Does it fit on you? Right? Not everything that fits someone will look good on us. So can you work with this leader? Right? And if everything else works and you can't work with this leader, my take, if you can move away from the job, right? Someone said, I want to work for Coke because the CEO of Coke is fantastic. She's on a lot of platforms, YouTube. She speaks a lot, and I like the CEO of Coke. But you're probably working 20 lines below, right? And that's where your direct manager has got more influence than any other person 20 rungs above. So think about that. Can you adapt to the leader style? Can you manage conflict without drama? These are questions that will never appear from the job description. So think about this, right? Someone said, I love this person, he'll be good for the job, but somehow I don't think he or she will pass the HR or the CEO round because he might not be good for the company, because that person knows the culture and knows how people are and how people react to, right? So while sometimes it's not the hiring manager, it might also be someone else within the interview panel that might not, you know, yeah. This is again, you know, we need to speak about this, right? What is high risk? What is high potential, right? And companies are drawn to potential, but hiring, it hinges on manageable risk. While your CV has got excellent potential, it will get an interview, but you need to understand that then when you are in the room, it's beyond potential that has already been identified, right? Plus minus, you can do the job, right? Maybe you have overhyped it a bit and that they can go through. But what they're trying to do is they want to manage the risk, of how long, whether you be, so there's so many risks involved that they will be ticking as you speak, right? While you think, yes, I've got the right answer, they're ticking something else. How do you respond? How do you, what's the sitting posture like? Are you fidgety? Are you, yes, I've got the right answer, I can do the job. Why are we, wasting time talking? So while you feel that it might be, you've got the right potential, but they are managing risks versus potential, right? Yeah. So potential needs proof. Yeah. Energy needs maturity. Ambition needs realism. I think that third line sums it all up. Confidence needs self-awareness, and your growth mindset needs evidence, right? So think about why I've got high potential, but do I also come with high risk? Am I going to go there and show them that, you've got the right guy on the table, take him, and then they realize, can we manage a superstar? Right. So yeah, think about this high risk, high potential logic. Yeah. So we spoke about this at some point, right? You know, what do they mean when they're assessing a candidate for team dynamics? So as you can see, this can all be ascertained in an interview. Are they listening actively, or do they dominate discussions? Right? If they can dominate me as a hiring manager, I dare not imagine what will happen to my fellow team players when they work together. Will they challenge ideas constructively or disrupt harmony? Will they uplift, energize the team, or drain enthusiasm? Right. So yeah, again, these are all subtle points that hiring managers look out for. Will they bring calm stability or create? So every answer that you give, every posture that you take, every reaction, expression that you give tells a story, you know. So yeah, as the tone was, I'm the right guy on paper. I think I'm the right guy for them. I come from the competitor, but what else are they evaluating? You know, and how you integrate with the team, how you influence team dynamics in the future is something that is not taken lightly in many interviews. Okay. So I think, yeah, this is again, your, companies hire people who understands business context. Company don't hire people who just want the job, right? And a candidate who can connect work to outcomes feels more senior and more useful. We have to understand that, you know, grasp the challenges and demands facing the business. Do you understand what is currently happening in the market now? Do you know what are the demands facing the business? Focus on results. Yes. I have a sales guy who went for an interview. I'm a good salesman. I'm out at events. I speak to a lot of people. and I'm always speaking to people. I think I'm a people's person and I'm a great communicator versus to someone who says, yes, I am active at so events. I, on an annual basis with the team, we bring in about how many million? Myself, maybe three to $400,000. And I work better under full autonomy. I like, at the same time, I like to have a pat on the back when I do something, while money motivates me, maybe some encouragement. You speak in outcomes. When you speak in outcomes, it's easier for people to know, okay, my business is very similar to what you do. Oh, yeah, a million, you do 300, 400,000. I think it gives me an idea. Can I verify that with someone? Why not? Right. And yeah, so you need to show awareness. I think we spoke about this, and as much as you can, right? You need to connect your experience to reality, the power of storytelling. Have an example. This is what I do. Tell me about how do you handle pressure? Or we had a time when we were forced in a project that had to meet a certain timeline. We all sat down together. We work as a team. Yes, I took charge, time management. So you connect experience to reality, right? And value is intangible, but make it understandable, right? So, and I know we will have all the slides later for you to do, but think about it, right? Value is intangible, but you need to make it understandable. And I think this is how you add commercial thinking when you are in an interview. Yes, yes. The more you think for the business, the more you have scenario based, you have context, you have data, the more commercial is sound, the safer you feel to hire. Okay. So we've spoken about what you can do, what you should do, what gets you hired. Probably chances are higher, but now, why do we get rejected, right? And I will remind you again, for all of you listening, rejection does not mean failure. It does not mean you're not good enough. Please understand that. I went for a couple of interviews. I didn't get an offer. Does not make you any lesser than the person who took it. There are several reasons we spoke about, right? And moving on, we will unpack common, often misunderstood rejection reasons, right? But yeah, it pains me sometimes when candidates call and say, "Oh, I've not got a job after 3 interviews. I think I'm not good enough." No, it's not you, right? You were good. Maybe someone was better. You were good. Maybe just not the right person for the team. You're good for the job, maybe not for the company, right? So there are many reasons, right? As we speak, candidates need to understand not selected does not mean not good, right? You need to be better position yourself better, not just competent, right? Oh, I didn't get the job because I was not competent. No, competency has already been identified, right, in the CV. That's why you're there. You're sitting in the room. Now they're assessing soft skills as well as skills to the job, right? Even if you get the skills to the job part, right? If your soft skills are not good, and sometimes you need the buy-in of the entire panel, right? Because if someone's thrown under the bus, okay, we don't like this candidate, but are you willing to put your head on the line? And no, no, I'm not willing to put my neck on the line. So, there has to be reasons more besides just how good you are. I like this. I like this. You need to ask better questions, whether what the company is looking for, right? Just imagine, I have till today candidates who walk out without a question, right? What are you telling the hiring company? You know what I mean? If you want to buy a house, you would probably ask what's near here, what's near there, what's this, how are the neighbors? The more questions you ask to the seller feels confident that you are an actual buyer, right? So ask, you know, you answered for the job title, not for the actual problem, right? You assume the scope from the job description. So, but do you understand what are the actual problems you want to solve, right? And did you ask them what does success look for in this person? Because no matter how good the pay is, no matter how good the company is, If you are not able to do the job, you will still leave, right? And why is it open? Is it new? Someone left? From your exit interviews, what are the reasons people usually ask? People usually say when they leave, what are the reasons? Why do they leave? Because when you ask that, it clearly shows you are there not for the job. You are there for a career and whether the company can give you that career, you know. And if there's no pain, there's no need, right? So what's the real pain, right? If you have a pain, you solve it. You buy something, you solve it. So if there's a pain within the company, someone's leaving, someone has left, and someone's always leaving, it's good for you to know, right? And this is what I always tell all my candidates who are going for an interview. The job description tells you the role, the interview tells you the problem, but only if you ask the questions, right? So ask. Ah, okay, overqualified, underposition. It's a tricky slide, but I wanted to have this in because I have a lot of, at my age, I have a lot of friends who are saying, Ryan, I'm overqualified. That's what they think, but there are many reasons beyond overqualified, and yes, while it's a chemistry problem, internal dynamics problem, can this person gel with the team? Can this person, wow, I've hired people that who were overqualified, who came in. I thought, at some point it's a bargain, isn't it? You get someone that's overqualified at what you're willing to offer. But then they come with different sets of problems or different sets of benefits. But companies need to be more open. They need to not say this overqualified. I don't like this, but companies need to understand more that, rejecting someone who's overqualified because you assume that they'll leave, or they'll get bored. Or maybe they're just taking the job now because they have got a need. As soon as someone else better comes, I'm off. So yeah, this is ah, I think we spoke about this at some point, right? The power of storytelling, right? And a story captures someone's attention more than reading off whatever you have done. It's all here. I work for this company. I've done this company, 10 years of this company. Imagine adding analogies or stories that can back up, why I know this company and we had this problem, where I was able to help with the team. And even though my contribution was minimal, I learned so much from it. I had this thing and or tell me some challenges. Always try to have good storytelling because everyone can read off or can tell their experience because it's theirs, right? But to make it resonate, sometimes it's because of poor storytelling. These are some of the reasons why people get rejected. And if four of them sounds the same and someone comes with a good storytelling technique, right? And people, yes, actually you're right. Oh yeah, actually you're right. You add more focus to it, when instead of just listing responsibilities, you are adding it, because explaining creates impact, right? You, again, not in job titles. Nobody cares about the title. They want to know outcomes, what has happened out of it. Sound useful, not busy, right? And you see, I have an example there. You see, I manage operations versus to I reduce delays by improving quality. It's the same thing, but it's how you narrate it to the person listening, right? You don't have to do it once you join. You know what I mean? But during interviews where you are meant to create an impact, I think it's important that you add storytelling. So poor storytelling is one of the reasons people get rejected. Uh, Study the room. This is studying the room. You know, I've had candidates who go for an interview, who went for interviews where the hiring manager is just quiet. This is what I want to know. This is what I want to do. Right. So study the room. When you study the room, you will know how much energy. No, there's no one size fit all type of approach to an interview, right? Too much energy is a problem. Too little energy is also a problem. And when you're too polished, navigate. uncharted waters, and all this chat GPT type of answers, and people can see to that, So be don't be too casual. So my take is study the room, go in with the right energy, match the energy of the person across to you, right? Or the people across to you, match the energy, be casual, not too, be articulate, but not too polished, right? You're not there again. Avoid performances, right? Storytelling is not performance. Storytelling is linking, right? But performance are a bit different, and people can see through that, right? The right presence, as I've written down, is measured confidence. Balance confidence with humility. You're not there. You're not there to show how good you are. You are there to ascertain whether this is the right job, and vice versa. They are also seeing whether you're the right person for the job. Humility is sometimes a very underused word. What are the hidden factors, you know, that you don't see? And out of the interview, I'm off. I think I did well. What are the hidden factors that you don't see? Because a lot happened behind the scenes, right? And again, as much empathy as I would like to use here, I would also like you to understand that what you cannot control, you cannot measure. So what you don't see, out of sight, out of mind, right? So a lot of things happen behind the scenes, and I put some information here for you to understand, right? And like I said, sometimes rejection has very little to do with your performance, and understanding these factors outside your control helps you, you know, stop taking everything personally. Please, I would like to extend that to everyone who's listening. Nothing is personal, right? You don't know what's going on, right? So let's get into that. Yes, you know, these are fantastic reasons all summed up in one slide, right? I've had many good candidates who did really well in the interview, who were close to an offer, but somehow there was an internal candidate who threw the hat in the ring, and the person said, "Oh, does things like that happen?" Yes, I would have been more happy. I'd be happier if they had done it before the whole process. But sometimes, they have a need, but someone comes in, right? Budget fluctuations. I've seen that happen in many times, right? The the hormone situation, before that Ukraine, before that COVID. I've seen companies just take knee-jerk reactions and stop. No, we're going to stop hiring. And this a lot of people are left in the market today because of team restructuring. You see what happens? Somebody wants to hire, then they do a couple of interviews. They're convinced, not convinced, and then what happens? Maybe let's take the easy way out. Let's not hire anymore. Let's just keep this position on hold for now and move. Right? That is the same for shifting stakeholder preferences. Right? And sometimes they don't want a hire. Sometimes they want a different type. They start the process now. 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, they somehow want another person because they've seen three people. They said, maybe can we have someone else, right? And business needs changing urgency, right? In some positions, it's critical because you need replacement. Some are not. Some another person can do. And with AI, that's not going to be much spoken about in this, probably the next webinar, but that they're also streamlining with AI, right? Internal salary concerns, right? And someone who's worked with us for 3 years suddenly leaves. We cannot hire someone based on that third year salary. The past 3 years we'd hire someone based on current market. So this also causes some problems, right? And referrals, right? They have referrals from other people. They've got someone who comes through their referrals, or someone who has applied for a position who somehow seems better now at this stage, right? So yeah, so these are all what you don't see behind. But if you have gone for an interview recently, you're not getting the right feedback. If you want to have an email to ask for feedback, you can ask them. Is this help me understand what's happening? Do you have an internal candidate, or are you considering all your stakeholders internally wanting to change the position? It keeps you, and when you know the actual reason, then it's not down to performance, right? Perfect, right? You summed it up. You can control your performance, but you cannot control the entire hiring machine. No way. Yes. Someone told me hiring is unfair. I know it's not unfair. It's just complex. With adding someone to the team, and a known internal candidate may feel safer. Another stakeholder might feel a different profile. The hiring manager might, and a lot of times you have that buy-in from the hiring manager. You can see from the eyes, oh, he's really happy, but someone else in the team might not be happy. Not happy, nothing personal, but probably they want a different type of a profile. Probably they tell the hiring manager, yes, this person can fill the problem now, but do you think this person can evolve into something else in the future? Because we might be adopting AI, right? So how do you think, right? You see, the role may change after new business priorities emerge. So think about, these are all reasons. This webinar is mainly for you to understand that sometimes you are not the problem, but there's so many other problems. And having privy to these problems can help you manage your expectations, because not getting a job after a fantastic interview is not the end of the world, right? And like you say, you cannot control every hiring decision, but you can control the quality of your signals. Positioning. Always. You don't see Coke and Pepsi in the same coffee shop. It's all about positioning, right? So you don't want to be the the 10th person among the 20% that they're interviewing. You want to be different. You want to stand out, strategically present your capabilities and values. Yes. Again, we go back to listening, right? So if you ask me, I think this five are you know, what are the key takeaways today, right? What do you think I can do? You need to ask, you need to position yourself very differently. You're not there for a job only, you're there for a career. Yes, it pays the bills for now, but imagine that the bills you have to pay to your therapist if it's not the right job, right? Listen, you can sense, I've got people who are so sharp and come and tell me, I don't want to work for this company because he was so condescending in the interview. The hiring manager or some another leader in the company made me feel that I needed them more than they needed me, but they're actually paying me. You're actually a contractor being paid by a company to solve a certain problem. You get what I mean? And if you position yourself like that, no one is paying you for nothing, right? They're paying you to solve a problem that they have. So if you're positioning yourself like that, asking the right questions, why now? What does success look for this person? Because I want to work for you for the next 5 years. Am I still going to be in a job? Is there growth? When was the last time someone in this position has grown? If they're not ready for your answers, tell them, okay, you can reply to me over email, but it's good that I know how I position myself before I work for you. No, Ryan, is that being too picky? Is that no? Like I said, a lot of people come back to me after a couple of years looking for a job again. It's because they were too eager to get it without asking the right questions. And bear in mind, you can reject them as much as you are rejected. And you do it because you have the right questions. You need to know how to be better. You want to be your our first webinar from the frying pan to the fire. Now you have established that where you are is the frying pan. Are you going to be in the fire, right? So this is a very important slide. I think a good takeaway of what you can do differently in your next interview. Yeah. So we've been talking, but now it's how you move into action. I would say this is not only the Ryan Kumar interview framework, but also how we are at direct search, right? I think you again, without listening, you don't know what's happening. And then after listening, link to what you've heard, back it up with evidence, right? Be able to calibrate your energy, don't overdo it, don't underdo it, and then clarify to find out, you know, what are the what's the real need for this? What are the risks, right? So if you look at it carefully, I think the past two slides are really important. and this sums up what you need to do for your next interview, right? And go in there with the mindset that if they hire you, they are paying you to solve a problem. Someone asked me recently, how are we remunerated? Is it because of my MBA? Is it because I have sailed? Is it because I have sold? Is it because I have managed people? No, they pay you according to how hard you are to replace, right? And obviously how many problems you can solve. So if you can take a picture of this slide, I think it's really important, that you break it down and see how you can do in your next interview, right? Listen, link, because if you don't listen, you can't link. Back that up with storytelling, examples, calibrate, manage your energy, confident, not overpowering, maintain good body posture, clarify. If the first four is for you, is for them to assess you. The last one is you assessing them. So yeah, I think we spoke about positioning, right? Mm, correct. I've met strong candidates. They don't sound like they have rehearsed. They sound like, they make the decision quite easy because end of the day, if you know what you want and you know how to position yourself, you the faster you can come to a decision, right? And so these are the three core problems you solve best. You know, articulate why this specific role or opportunity is timely. Why now? Clear. You're making for a move. Why now? Try not to speak bad about your company. No, no, right? Demonstrate how your background aligns with the actual scope of the role. There's a link, right? We spoke about listen, link yourself, all right? Provide concrete examples, contextualize to the company's needs, right? Link, listen, evidence, right? And conclude with a memorable and clear takeaway. Calibrate. Make sure it's easy for them to understand. You're not animatic. You're not over graphical. Oh yeah. So you need to, yeah. So this is what I've got from strong candidates. How they make their decision easy. And how they make it easy for the interviewer as well. Straight to the point, right? Position yourself clearly as soon as you can. This probably should start with a tell me about yourself, right? That not what you studied and what are your hobbies. These are more important when they ask you, tell me about yourself. Okay. So Ryan, what can I do? What kind of questions? You spoke a lot, you told me a lot of scenarios. What can I do? Another good takeaway for you. What does success look like in the first 6 months? Why? You want to know whether you can do the job with what they're paying you. Good company, good reputation, good salary. But oh, I expect this, I expect that. Oh no, I don't think I can meet that. No, no, and yeah, that's why we're always hiring because nobody can meet our requirements. Thank you. I think I'm not the person for you as well, right? Why is this position open now? Someone left. Go back to the earlier part of the webinar. Do you have exit interviews? Can you just give me an idea typically why people leave your company, right? What usually makes someone fail in this role? Good. If you can also take a picture of the slide, it's fantastic. What kind of personality works best in this team? This is so important because you are now finding out you can do the role, you can take the salary, company is good, but will you upset the team or will the team upset you? Right? What problem does the business need this role to solve? That's why they're paying you. Right. So, strong candidates ask questions that reveal business problems. You're not there to get a job that pays the bills. You're there to build your career. Where you're going to be in 5 years doesn't miraculously happen on the fourth year. It happens today, tomorrow, the next job that you take, right? So yeah, ask better questions. The birth of the right answer is usually a right question. So if you have what you want in mind, make sure your questions help you get the right answers. Yeah, correct. Like I said, it's a two-way process, you know. So prepare yourself like you're also going to make a decision. Don't plan your interview as something that you need where I need to impress. No. Yes, you need to impress, but your experience, the way you answer, what you have done will do that. But how do you prepare? You prepare like a decision maker. You know, do not prepare only to understand. You got to prepare to answer, sorry. Prepare to understand. You're not there to answer. It's not a Q&A. No, it's not an interrogation. Right. So think, understand the landscape. Study if you can, do some research. Your value, you craft compelling narratives, you know, storytelling. Be able to, a lot of people fail today because they're not able to tell what they feel. They're not able to tell what they want. They can say, speak like that with their friends in Starbucks, but put inside a room where you are filled, with pressure, you cannot articulate your motivation and ask insightful questions. I think the questions to ask have already been in the earlier slide. This again, I don't think we need so much time. I think we spoke about it over the course of the webinar. Pause, take a 2-second rule. I know the answer is at the tip of the lips, but calm down. Let give the perception to the interviewer that you're a good listener. Pause before answering. Let them finish the question. Maybe when they were asking, they forgot something else they might want to ask. Hence, the 2-second rule is there important. Answer direct to the point. Give the storytelling happens after when you're answering the first one to the point, because they might not understand what you think and how you think. So give a storytelling too, right? And then I always do that. I say, sorry if I answered the question, or can I say a bit more? Do you want a bit more? Oh, no, you've answered the question. Then we go quiet again, right? No matter how big we are, no matter how good we are, no matter how senior we are, have some balance, confidence, and humility. If we're going for a job, we're going to work with people. There will be someone who has our interests, and we have their interests. There's someone who's going to look after us, hire us, work with the team. So show them that you're someone who brings balance, confidence, and humility, right? Yes, this, as much as they see how you move, and you know what I mean. So notice cues and body language. Somehow that can tell you if they're not impressed, they're not in the answer. So you can back that up with another question. Or if I answered, or are you expecting something else? Right? And yeah, this is really, really, really important. Measured confidence is more powerful than uncontrolled enthusiasm, right? They don't need someone firing on all cylinders. They need someone who's there to answer and see whether the person can solve the problem. Right? That's it. So control your signals. Yep. This, I think, simple. Get a business card, have a business card. When you tell someone what they've told you, they know that now you have understood. So thanks for the interview. I understand this is what you're looking for. Oh, I think I might be the right person. I had a pleasant experience, and yeah, I think this is exactly what I'm looking for in my next role, right? Don't I think one follow-up is enough. More than one or two, more than two or three, it sounds like you're begging. We don't want to give that. When we're too desperate, what happens? The offer is not in line with what we can bring to the table. The offer becomes, oh, I think the person really wants a job. Let's give them lesser to see whether they take it. You don't want to be in that situation, all right? Use the follow-up to improve clarity. What do you think was missed? What happened in the interview? Not to keep saying, yeah, I think I can do the job. My CV says this, or I've done this. I've no, that has all been ascertained. So use the follow-up to improve, give them more clarity. Sometimes not short, sometimes not too long, but just whether you understood what the interview was all about, and don't repeat your CV, right? The the purpose of a follow-up should make your value clearer, not louder, not cheaper. Again, I hate to use the word, but yeah. So it's basically a professional recap that strengthens the decision and confidence. Maybe I missed this out. Maybe I spoke to this person. I had 4 other interviews after that. I forgot. So, it reiterates, reinforces, strengthens decisions and confidence. Yeah. I'm just now thinking how many more slides I have. I think it's almost 5 o'clock, right? So you can genuinely do well and still not get the offer, right? And this is, to me, I I want to reiterate to everyone who's listening, right? Don't get emotional. Don't take it personal. Don't get too over attached to one process, right? Again, like I said, the plus of this webinar, you can genuinely do well and still not get the offer, right? Because hiring is comparative, it's emotional, commercial, human, and sometimes imperfect. So get that, please. What you can control, you control. What you can't, right? An interview is not proving that you can talk. It's about proving whether people can trust working with you. Rejection should make them, rejection should make anyone sharper, not bitter. I know people who can get really bitter, but a rejection should make you sharper. You cannot control the entire hiring process. But what you can control is how you position yourself, how well you listen, how much confidence you can give the decision makers. Position clearly, listen better, understand the business, and be memorable for the right reasons.